Since the release of the cockpit voice recorder transcript by the investigators of Air France 447, the fact that the pilots were totally at a loss to understand what was happening to their aircraft has become distressingly clear. Before I start digging down into the immensely complex human aspects of this accident, I must make clear the fact that even when the BEA's final report comes out, we'll still be guessing at what was going on in the heads of the 3 pilots in charge of Air France 447. But even if, after the final report, we're left guessing about what was going on in the pilots' heads, that does not absolve us from the responsibility of attempting to understand it. Because unless we do understand it, we can't work out intelligent ways to deal with these problems of pilot cognition and lack of situational awareness. In Air France 447, the pilots were confronted with a situation they clearly didn't recognize, or they didn't believe, or they didn't understand. In the cockpit voice transcript, the pilots' words convey the fact that their bewilderment at what they saw was total. They never appeared to come close to appreciating what they could do to save the aircraft, because they didn't understand what they were seeing. The essential question is, how can that be? These pilots were fully qualified to operate this aircraft, and the same was true of the pilots in charge of the 6 other cases of loss of control since the year 2000. I said before, this is about human cognition. Cognition has many components. Let's go back to those 3 words I mentioned, which describe what pilots have to be able to do when they look at an aircraft's instrument panel. Recognize, believe, understand. If the Air France 447 crew had recognized what the flight and engine instruments were telling them, had believed the information the displays were supplying, and had understood the whole picture conveyed by the numerous sources of data, they could have recovered their aircraft to safe flight at any point in the trajectory except the final minute or so of flight. What is in danger of happening here is that the industry reacts to this accident by trying to design the pilots totally out of the loop and to replace them with automation. But the irony, if we reacted by introducing more automation, is that in the case of Air France 447, the fatal sequence of events started with the automation disconnecting because it could not cope, leaving the pilots to fly the aircraft without it. The problems for this crew started when the autopilot and autothrottle tripped out, and the aircraft's control system shifted out of normal law into alternate law. In normal law, the crew have full automatic flight envelope protection. In alternate law, the pilots themselves are entirely responsible for keeping the aircraft's flight within its safe performance envelope, just like the old days. Just, in fact, like most airliners still flying today. The reason the automation tripped out is the GIGO principle that applies to all computing. Remember GIGO? It stands for garbage in, garbage out. And aircraft's automatics are designed to trip out when they recognize that they're being fed unreliable data. Because if computers are fed incorrect data, their output will be incorrect, and this could lead to disaster. So they hand over control to the pilots. In Air France 447, this is where a minor technical problem became a major one, because of the pilots' misapprehension of what was going on and why. That misapprehension was certainly not inevitable, but it was, and remains, a likely product of the way aeroplanes have changed, but airline pilot recurrent training has not changed to take account of the differences in the modern flying task. I maintain that what happened here is a symptom of the fact that the aviation system itself has already taken airline pilots out of the loop. It didn't intend to take them out of the loop, but that has been the effect.